I think we really do need to be a little creative about that whole business of matching people with the resources. And of course, the situation that you described, you're dealing with all these guidelines. You're dealing with MCFD and what they do with foster children. And it's just all, it appears to be a huge problem until you tease it out, trying to see which silo you go to for dealing with what problem.
I live in Laurie Curl Housing Co-op, which a lot of people don't realize was generated out of the hard work of Buck Sigurdsson and others who fought to get Woodward's, Woodward's Housing Co-op. So Woodward's actually generated 400 units of housing, 200 that became Laurie Curl Housing Co-op, and 200 that are here on site. And our co-op has two sites, one in Gastown, which is mostly singles, and one in Chinatown, where I live, which is half families with 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 bedrooms. It's 80% subsidy, 20% market. Out of the 80%, there's a full threshold, a full spectrum between deep core and shallow subsidy. So you've got, on my floor, you don't necessarily know who's who, and I'm balanced between market and non-market. But it's a really great mixed development in the inner city because we've got families who are sending their kids to Strathcona. We've got Chinese elders. We've got really intact community. And the one struggle I have with the co-op model is that it's really social housing with a fancy name. Because I find with the housing management structure of a lot of the co-ops, they are, especially with the consultants like Terra Housing and others, there's a kind of a hegemony of co-ops where the residents, even though we should have there's typically an average of 15% participation, they're really run like social housing projects. And as much as we struggle in our co-op to really make it a democratic, active village, it really suffers from that kind of top-down management structure that the Coho Housing and the other management companies that Easy Housing is happy to have running these buildings creates a certain sedentariness. So I just want to throw that out there. I also want to throw out another example of what I still consider really best practices in the neighborhood, which is the core housing project, which is part of the EDGE. So that's a private development the city put in. The market put it in at Gore and Alexander, Gore and Railway, Gore and Alexander. It's a huge middle-class artist housing complex. But I flagged it because the city also required the developer to create a 35-unit housing co-op. And so you've got 35 low-income artists that live there inside this complex where there's the middle-class artists. And it's not perfect, but it's nice that at least those units got built. But ironically, the city has yet, after 10 years of that building being existing there, they never signed a lease with the co-op. So they actually, the co-op, which in the cultural sector, we see that as the best practices of artist housing, there's still no lease secure with the city, which is kind of weird and problematic. But I want to flag that also as an example where, not that I'm suggesting artists or plumbers or fisher folk have more priorities than other people, but that when a constituency gets together, we should really be encouraging that kind of collective action amongst whether it's a group of people in a resident, a geographic area, or a group of moms, or a group of, we want to encourage that diversification of tactics in housing, and also diversification of models. And I think I would wish that Van City and the city and other potentially creative players in the sphere would help us fund and invest in lease to own, rent to own, some different models so that the best practices isn't these co-ops, it's not paltry 8 units out of a massive development, but we really look at innovative models so that working class people, working class families can actually own their own homes. I think we should really settle for nothing less. We should be pushing for those standards and really attracting and exciting the creative investors to come to the table with us.
I have to tell you, I live in a market condominium, and most owners say the same thing about the strata council and the property managers, top-down dictators. It's just, I think it's a problem of participation for most people. They're not participating, they're feeling that it's being done to them. So that whole challenge of stimulating.
If I can give just a quick follow-through. The vision that I was arguing with our board and with Coho was that, here you got a building with 15 or 20 Chinese seniors, no English language for the most part. And so I argued that part of our BC Housing allotment for our building would be better spent not on security but on programming, on translation for meetings, on taking the Chinese seniors and the kids out, having a half day a week worker that would help animate the building so that the kids and the seniors would go up to Swinston Garden and go for a walk together, or go to Tinseltown and go to a movie together. So BC Housing doesn't support that. So what they do is they support very traditional top-down management structures that they think builds community or is risk mitigating for worse things. And what our argument was that actually if we proactively invest in building community in these buildings for a small quarter time, even 1 day a week worker, you're going to get far more better results in the long term.
One of the reasons why we supported 95 East Eastland as a development is that out of the 352 units that are to be built there, 3 towers, 70 of them will be turned over to the city as the amenity system that the city has. They're worth approximately $10 million. And the city will own those, and they will turn those 70 over to through an RFP process to a housing provider. One of the issues that we have around that is that we would like to become the housing provider in terms of a community group or some kind of a social group, if you like, within that community and have a large tenants participation in that process. But in talking to Abby Bond, who is the housing person for the city, they're very traditional in terms of how they will look at that. Owning those 70 units, if you like, and go through an RFP process. If we come up with an alternative, that would be great. The other is that if we can find a housing provider that we could actually partner with in some way, that we could that has some empathy for the kinds of values and principles that we would like to establish, that would also be a good thing. So one of the things we would like to know from you is, do you know a housing provider that would have similar values that are being established through this kind of conversation? I can think of one at this point which is the M3, More Than a Roof, I think it's called, which I just rediscovered the other day. And I just wonder whether other people have groups like that that they're aware of.
We probably have time for a couple more comments. If people think of answers to questions, you can always reach us. So, Scott?
Yeah, just picking up on what Andrea Reiner said. She basically said to us here, those that are organized are effective. Those that communicate are effective. And we have a real opportunity with our case, and that particular 955 development. But when we're talking about it, we're not talking about it just about the housing. We're talking about the 64,000 square feet of what they call PDR, the space and businesses. We're talking about how do we create a whole bunch of jobs between now and when the actual construction begins, plus how can we get a certain percentage of the 700 person years of the actual construction for apprenticeship training, supporting Embers to do their work, Mission Impossible and others. And then in addition to that, what type of businesses can we put in there and what type of sustainable long-term policies about employing and training people within the community so that they can move into these jobs for a long term. The W2 building here is a perfect example. There's no report card on W2, but we have a brilliant opportunity through this process to do that. But the key thing is getting organized and communicating the message out there. Why is this so important in our mind? It's because the best thing that I can see about our place, the Richer table, the inner city economic strategy, is that what we're doing is, and Andrea said it very well, is we're breaking new ground. That's what we're doing. The pilot is being done here, and we have 6 years of growth based on empirical studies and more diverse groups coming together to make these realities come true. And so I see it as a brilliant template that we can be looking at Grandview Woodlands, we can be looking in all pieces of the city. One last thing is that, and I have to say that I'd be remiss, because the issues impacting the urban Aboriginal population, and particularly in the downtown east side, are absolutely a crisis situation. But it's such a crisis that I think it's become normalized by people. They don't talk about it, it's just sort of a given. But there's something that we can all collectively do. When you look at the diversity in this room, the challenged population, the indigenous population, the recent immigrant, the low-income peoples, collectively, we keep mobilizing and messaging and saying we want safe, affordable communities in all 24 neighborhoods of Vancouver, using this as a template. I just want to sort of share that because we are thinking much broader than but we're also working small.
Okay, well, I'm thinking